I do think this is super important and worth spending the time on, obviously. Otherwise, I wouldn't let us go on and on. But if you don't know what a protist is, you know, you will have questions asking you for sure to distinguish between a prokaryote and a eukaryote. And they would love to show you a picture of a paramecium, a single-celled eukaryote, and ask you to distinguish them. And I don't want a protist to hang you up. And they'll ask you to say what kingdom this is in. And I want to make sure you know what a protist is. Now you won't forget. And protists are cool. Okay? And so when we're done with the test, we'll look at some under a pond water. I was walking around Buttonwood yesterday morning very early, and there were people fishing right by the sign that says no fishing, no feeding the birds, etc., etc. And I said, seriously, don't eat the fish that are there. And they're like, uh-huh. And I'm like, seriously, like, I've looked many times under the microscope at the water here. Do not eat anything or, like, drink or be splashed or put your feet in this water. And they're like, uh-huh. I'm like, okay, I tried. I don't know why I have to have a big mouth. Like, why do I say these things? But anyway, my point being that I had taken some samples there and then cultured them by using grass clippings. I think your year, right? We did that? No?
I don't think it was mine.
Oh, no, because I got better at it after that. So anyway, so you can't see them if you just take a little bit and then look at them. But if you take a small amount and then culture them with grass clippings or hay or something, they really, really take off. And then you look at them a few days later, and they're a specialized little microscope, and they're kind of covered little slides. It's easy to look at without being contaminated by the water. And you can watch the protists swimming around, eating each other, having fun. And they're really, really cool, and then you never, ever forget what a protist is. And Buttonwood Pond is filled with them, and the kind that they're filled with would make you very sick. So you do not ever want to fish there, swim there. Like, don't feed the birds bread, because it's not good for the birds, etc. So anyway, so we talked about different theories about whether cyanobacteria did or did not create oxygen here, or whether cyanobacteria came later, and that's debatable, but something came along and created an opportunity for oxygen. We don't know what it was for sure, but maybe cyanobacteria, maybe some other kind of bacteria, and then what? Somebody take over. So we had some kind of eukaryotes, and it was not a worm. What would the first eukaryotes have been then?
Like a complex bacteria. That was multicellular.
Okay, is bacteria multicellular?
No.
Okay, tell me about bacteria. What are the two types of bacteria? We have two kingdoms of bacteria.
So the archaea and the eubacteria.
Mm-hmm. And they are prokaryotes or eukaryotes?
Prokaryotes.
So are they single-celled or multicellular?
Single-celled.
Mm-hmm. And if they're prokaryotes, are they eukaryotes?
No.
So, Alex, what do you want to tell me about the first eukaryotes?
I don't know.
I think you were heading in another direction.
They weren't multicellular? Is that like the first eukaryotes?
It was complex.
Well, like,
single cellular bacteria.
I mean, like, if endosymbiotic theory is true, then, like, I mean, it would be two cells, but, I mean, what would it be?
What is endosymbiotic theory? Who could try to explain endosymbiotic theory for me?
A more complex organism, single cell, ate another one, and that organism that it ate became part of its makeup as an organism.
Right, and so the organism inside then became what?
A functioning part of the
And we call that functioning part now, or
Organelles?
Yeah, organelles.
okay.
I mean the other organelles,
Yeah.
not just mitochondria, like whatever other organelles. Not just mitochondria, although we fixate on mitochondria because I'm obsessed with mitochondria. Anyway, okay, so endosymbiotic theory, somebody else say it now in another way.
It's when one prokaryote envelops like another, and that piece becomes like a functioning part of the organism that it's in.
Okay, you're saying this is happening every day now, but that's not happening every day,
Or
right?
that's how it like all started. Like,
Perhaps.
So it's like a
It's a
theory.
possibility.
Right, so this is a theory to explain what?
How eukaryotes were created or started or something.
Yeah, so what would be a way, you're struggling with the word created because it's like, oh,
Yeah.
right, so what, so,
Born, like
say it, evolved!
evolved.
Yeah,
So it's how eukaryotes evolved.
there you go.
Okay.
You backed off the word evolved.
I don't know why.
I don't know why. Evolved is a good word, right? Right, somebody else go for it. Jasmine.
When a complex organism eats another organism.
Back up a little bit. We're talking about the evolution of eukaryotes from prokaryotes. So we're talking about very, very simple to more complex. So first there were very, very simple bacteria, and then there were more complex cells. So how could you explain that?
Prokaryote eats another prokaryote and evolves
To,
into eukaryote.
and why, what's the significance of that?
To become a multicellular organism.
No. What is different from a eukaryote and a prokaryote? Back up a little bit. Not to become multicellular. Organelles. Okay.
Does that make the first eukaryote a protist? Protist?
Possibly. Not necessarily.
Like what other kingdom could it have come from? Like what would it be?
I don't know. What would you imagine? Let's pretend we can't look this up somewhere, which we probably could, because there are some fossils that we could talk about. But what would if we don't know anything, which we don't, what would your imagining say that very first, okay, Bob the prokaryote eats two bills, and bills live on inside Bob, and Bob becomes a big fat something with two bills living inside, going on to continue their metabolic activity. And Bob is big and fat and his leg, look at me go, doing new things. Okay? So, what do you think that would be like? And you have this happening after there's oxygen.
But it wouldn't have to necessarily be doing respiration, would it? You could still be photosynthesizing, right?
Okay. I think maybe since if you kind of look at how things are going, the next big thing to happen is plants, that I think we could kind of infer that maybe this photosynthesis aspect is maybe pretty significant here, that being, having some chloroplast, Bill being a chloroplast might be important. Or remember that how slow photosynthesis, not photosynthesis, but the glycolysis in a prokaryote is really inefficient compared to a mitochondria. You get what I'm saying? Maybe you need to think this piece through a little bit. Think about what Darwin was talking about with survival of the fittest. And we have, before prokaryotes, we have this really volcanic lava, no atmosphere, okay? And then we start having some oxygen. We start to have a more, we start to have a kind of environment we might find more inviting. And we're getting gradually and gradually and gradually an environment that we like better. More and more like what we like. Just to keep that in perspective, that all of this builds towards something that we get to live in.